Hello and welcome to Getaway Day. My name is Gautam. His name is Mason. And today we're previewing our favorite division, the NL Central, which is probably not a very popular favorite division, but here we are.
Yeah, it's honestly a little painful to hear you say those words all in one sentence.
But it's all true, right?
It is true. It just right now feels bad, man.
It does. Yeah. So we are going to get into each of these teams one by one, but a couple other things just to start with some background for where these teams were a year ago, how they finished, what the off seasons kind of looked like, and then we'll really dive deep into each of the five teams in the Central. So last year, the Brewers won the division. They won 90 plus games, I think, last year.
They won 93 games.
Yeah, they won 93. That was their third division victory in the last 4 years. They've kind of been the team to beat in this division for pretty much the last half decade or so.
Yeah.
And the Cubs finished in second with 83 wins. The Cardinals are right behind them. Tied with them.
83 and 79.
Okay, so Cubs and Cardinals had 83 wins. And then it was the Reds and the Pirates. Yep. So no team was truly atrocious, and the Brewers were the closest to being a great team, but they themselves has their own flaws. And I guess any thoughts on like what last season was like for this division, or?
Oh boy. I don't know. This division's been so weird. Like it just throughout our entire lifetime, it's been weird because it was for a little bit of time the best division in baseball with three teams that were like legit contenders all at the same time, and the Brewers, the Cubs, the Cardinals there in like the early, like mid 2010s. And
I was going to say there was the year 2015, right, when the Cardinals, the Cubs, and the Pirates actually each had 97 wins or something.
Yeah.
That year. Yeah.
Yeah, and like 2013, I think the Pirates were one of the top three. Then the Reds were up there for a year or two, and it just seemed like this was a division that always, every year, the standings jumbled up, and there wasn't ever one team that was like the one at the top everyone's looking for, or like they're looking back at everyone else. That really hadn't been a thing with this division for most of our life. And now it just seems like we're at this point where we kind of just know what's going to happen for the most part at the beginning of the year. We know that the Reds and the Pirates are going to be not atrocious. They're going to underperform. They're going to be maybe 500 at best. The Cubs are going to be decent and not spend enough money to actually be the good team that they are, or that they could be. The Brewers are just going to keep somehow being good, even though they have no business being good. And
yeah. I guess the Brewers part of it is like, we need to stop counting out the Brewers, because I'm pretty sure we picked them to be like last in the division last year, and they were not. They were the best team.
We pick against them every year and say that we need to stop doing it, but we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Because just on paper, they don't seem like a strong team. But yeah, in general, this division has seen a lot of different teams on top. I guess it's competitive, but it's also, there's no team that's going out and really looking like a clear favorite. I think this year maybe things are a little bit different, but we'll get into that. So what actually happened in the offseason?
Well, for three teams, basically nothing. The Cardinals made no free agent signings at all. They have not traded away any of the guys that they were potentially going to trade away. So, like, the Cardinals have made a few minor moves, but like very, very minor. In fact, let me just look. The Cardinals have signed 4 players to minor league contracts this offseason.
Yeah, so no major league free agents. I think we should just address the Nolan Arenado situation up top because I think that's one of the key storylines of this division, and it's probably part of the reason why they haven't made any other moves.
It's 100% why they haven't made any other moves.
Yeah, so the situation is that, okay, the Cardinals are said to be in a kind of a reset year where they're not like tearing the thing down. They're not trying to not compete, but they're also clearly not pushing all their chips in, and they want to move Nolan Arenado so they can free up space for other young position players to like get additional at bats because having him there, he's not like a long term. I mean, he's got 3 years left on his deal, but he's not really like a long term player for the team. They want to just get some of the new guys in there.
And he has specifically said publicly that when he's not playing well or things aren't going great for the team, he knows that he is toxic in a clubhouse in those situations. And so I think it's one of those that because this is the plan, like he knows he can be hard on people when he's not performing well. And if the club is not going out and trying to necessarily win the World Series this year, I think it's one of them that it's just best for everyone involved if he's not there. As great as he is, because I mean, he's a great player. Nobody can deny that he hasn't had a spectacular career, but that's not exactly a situation you want.
No, and the Cardinals actually agreed in principle to a trade to the Astros early in the offseason, which Nolan Arenado was able to basically veto with his no trade clause to the Astros. And he is also, it's been reported that he's got a list of 5 teams that he would accept a trade to. He kind of doubled down on that, like as he reported to spring training, that list is not really going to change. It's 5 teams. It's the Yankees, the Red Sox, the LA teams, and the Padres. So it's not like a huge list of teams. We can definitely talk about the likelihood of any of those teams actually making a move. But at this point, it's very much looking like he's going to be starting the season with the Cardinals.
And that's how the Cardinals have kind of started spring, is they've all said, now we are operating with Nolan being our third baseman. That is our plan. If things change, they change. But right now, that is how we are mapping out the season. So I think they've agreed that it's not going to happen unless they pay off the most of the salary, which is something they just frankly don't want to do. And I don't blame them, but they're not going to get any prospects back unless they do. And so it's just kind of do you want to just get him out of the clubhouse and clear up space? And if you do, you're going to have to pay to do it. And they don't want to. The Red Sox don't really have a need anymore now that they signed Bregman. The Dodgers don't really have space or a need.
Yeah.
The Angels shouldn't.
That's the fit, to be honest.
I mean, it is, but like, it's not really benefiting the Angels all that much. It's not going to move the needle. I mean, it might move the needle for them, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the move. But
it's limited, obviously, and the Cardinals don't want to accept a bad deal for them, so it's not looking likely at this point.
Yeah,
that could change as the season progresses. But okay, I'm just going to switch the rundown here. Let's just keep talking about the Cardinals while we're already talking about them. So,
all right,
with Nolan Arenado going to be in the fold here to start the year, starting third baseman, the thing that I noticed in the Cardinals is they're literally bringing back their exact same team from last year, minus Paul Goldschmidt. It's the same guys. So how are we really opening up spots for young players like Nolan Gorman, like Jordan Walker, Lars Nootbaar, Victor Scott? Like, how are those guys all going to fit into this puzzle? Someone's got to lose some playing time, and it's not going to be Nolan Arenado.
Correct. So this is a little bit of a weird situation because ideally Nato would leave. You would move either Nolan Gorman or Jordan Walker back to their natural position at third base. And then you would have one more outfield spot or one more infield spot available for some of these young guys like Thomas Saggese. Like who else am I thinking? Like Mike Ciani. Granted, he's not necessarily like the next big outfielder we got. He's solid, but nothing special. Eventually Chase Davis, eventually JJ Weatherholt. Like, there are a lot of good young players in the system. Not a lot. There are a couple of great young players in the system that would be looking for those spots. Now it's kind of backed up. We haven't really cleared out any of the outfield logjam. With Goldie being gone, that does help a little bit because we can move Contreras to first to keep him healthy and keep him on the field. And that's going to be a big like help to the Cardinals. We will also get to see what happens with Ivan Herrera, Pedro Pages, and potentially Jimmy Crooks III, he's 23 years old. He's like the up and coming catcher in the Cardinals system. I know that there's always one of those and no one's been able to actually like come through as the replacement to Yachty. That's why we signed Contreras. But keeping Contreras on his feet, off his knees, gives us the opportunity to try out a couple of these pieces. The big thing for the Cardinals this year, where there is going to be a substantial amount of playing time, and I think we're going to see them plug and play a lot, is in the pitching staff.
Yeah.
So, because this pitching staff, Sonny Gray, Miles Michaelis, Eric Fetty, that's all that we have locked in. So Steven Matz, I am a little bit surprised he's still with the club. Eric Fetty, I'm surprised is still with the club. I figured both of them would have been try and trade, and I realize Matz hasn't necessarily been healthy or all that great, but his salary's not ridiculous. You could kind of offload that to open a spot, but there's a lot of young pitchers in Gordon Graceffo, in
Michael McGreevy, Quinn Matthews, Ian Bedell, who else am I forgetting here? Tink Hence.
Tink Hence, Sim Roberts. Like, there's a lot of good young pitchers in the system who have kind of tapped out what they can do in the minors, and they need a chance to see what they could do. Quinn Matthews was spectacular last year. He's going to be on this club at some point this year. So is Andre Palante going to lose his spot in the rotation? Is Matt's going to get sent to the bullpen or DFA'd or something? We'll see. And then even just in the bullpen, there's a lot of guys who could start, probably are staying in the bullpen. Guys like Zach Thompson, guys like Matt Liberatore, who it seems like they've kind of got all their chances at the rotation. They're now here in the bullpen. But like Kyle Leahy, Ryan Fernandez, some of these guys may stick, may not. We may see guys like Ludus. We may see guys like Chris Roycroft come up and get substantial more innings this year. I think there's going to be a lot of moving pieces this year, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. I'm looking at roster resource right now, and I don't think the projected opening day roster on the pitching side, I think there's going to be about 4 names come off that list that are replaced. I
see all the opportunities on the pitching side, and they have quite a few guys that seem like they're on the doorstep of the majors, going to be making their debut at some point. So it'll be interesting to see who emerges, who actually gets those starting spots, or if they're just cycling through. And that very well may be a viable strategy in this year. But on the position player side, I'm still just stuck because it's the same team as last year. So it's hard to, what they're saying is that this is a year that they're going to try to get full-time run for all these guys, but it doesn't seem possible. It's like the math just doesn't work out.
Yeah, it's now you've got Gorman, Donovan, and Burleson that are going to be trying to cycle some form of DH second base. And you've got those three that all three of them you want in the lineup every day.
Yeah. I think so. Let's try to figure this out. So the guys that are locked in, we got Arenado at third. We got
Mason
Contreras
Wynn.
Mason Wynn at shortstop. We got Contreras at first. And I would say that we've got
Lars.
We got Nootbaar, whether he's in left or whether he's in center, he's going to be out there. So,
And my guess is left. He's not really played center in St. Louis much.
Okay. So probably Nootbaar in left. And my initial thought,
Donovan in the lineup, but where?
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing. If you need Donovan in the lineup and second base is being played by Gorman, for example, then Donovan has to play left, and then that moves Nootbaar to center.
Or to right. Well,
but you got to play Walker, and I think Walker's the guy that surely is going to be in the lineup every day. They're going to make that a priority.
Yeah, he's going into his age 23 season. This is the year that Walker is. I'm not going to say this is a make or break season for him because he's only 23. But this is like come on, dude, you got to do it now or you're going to get passed up probably.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It kind of is a make or break, I would say. Not that he couldn't break out later, but for this team, it seems like
for this team, it's like if it doesn't happen now for you with the Cardinals, he's probably going to end up being the next Rosarena, the next Adolis Garcia.
Carlson.
The next
traded
Carlson.
Outfielder.
Yeah. And I very much don't want that to happen. I love Jordan Walker, but like we've got Victor
as we
Scott
go through this, we go through this exercise, and it's so hard to figure it out because we haven't even mentioned Siani and Michael Scott, the guy, or not Victor Scott, the guys that are center fielders.
No, the guy from The Office,
Michael Scott. Yeah, he's playing center field for the Cardinals this year. Scott's Tots, and then I guess Burleson seems like the guy that's going to miss out on playing time because he does not fit into the outfield. Maybe he's the DH.
So he is pretty much just a DH. Yeah. That's kind of all he's ever been. Like he couldn't really play the outfield. They had him do it occasionally, but it was like when Goldie had an off day, he'd play first. Otherwise, Burley DH'd. Yeah. And he's a great hitter. He's been a really, really good player for the Cardinals. It kind of feels like he is going to need to be traded just to make it work. Like him and Gorman are a little bit redundant. Like Gorman at least can play defense. So I don't know. It's as much as I love Burley, I think Burley is the guy that if I were looking at this roster and it were up to me, his upside is lower than the rest. His floor is higher than the rest. But I think with where this club is at, you almost need to cut bait on him and let some of these high risk, high reward guys have their legit chance.
Yeah, Burleson seems like he's sort of a finished product, and it's not the most exciting player in the world. It's a fine player. He's probably a starter for a lot of teams, but he's not like, he doesn't have the upside of a Walker or a Victor Scott if he ever could hit. It's different.
Well, and at 26, he's the oldest of all these guys.
Yeah, and that's why I say he's a finished product.
Yeah.
So, but with all this being said, if the Cardinals can figure out what alignment works for them, get these guys in the right spots, the right guys on the field, I can see a scenario where their offense is not half bad. I think they're pretty solid all around. They don't really have glaring weaknesses in any point in the lineup, I would say.
So the other thing that they could do, and this wouldn't make a whole lot of sense if you were just trying to field the best defensive club that you can, is they could put third base into a rotation of who's going to be manning it defensively each day. And once a week, twice a week, have Nato DH. I don't think he'd go for it. But
I feel his
they're
value is as a defensive player, right?
yeah.
So why would they move him off that?
Because if the game plan is to trade him at the deadline or trade him in the next offseason, you need to figure out who can take that spot.
Yeah, I guess.
Like
that's where you're hampered. Going back to the main starting point is having the one guy as a roadblock. It is a roadblock in this situation.
Yeah.
So
like with what their intent is for the season, it is a major roadblock. In any other situation, it's a great problem to have Nolan Arenado on your team.
Yeah.
Like, I love him. I think we all know that. I love Nato, and I do not want him to leave the Cardinals. I think right now it might be the best thing for the future of the Cardinals. Which sucks to say. So.
Yeah, I do think that this team has a fairly high floor. I don't see them just tanking out and winning 70 games. I think they're going to be roughly around 500. They're going to sort of repeat what they did last year in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, like, just looking at the lineup in general, even if it just turns out to be the same as it was last year, pitching is where we got screwed last year for the most part. And Lynn's gone. Who are the other ones that let go?
Gibson's gone.
Kyle Gibson's gone, and it's, I don't know. We'll see. I have hope this club can make the postseason. I do. It's just this is maybe the least exciting opening day lineup that we've had, just because there's so many questions and it's so confusing, and I don't know. I don't know who's going to be on the club at the end of the year. And so it makes it really hard to be excited right now.
And it's hard to be excited when they just won 83 games and then they didn't make any additions to the team. So
yeah,
it's a situation where, yeah, the team themselves are not investing in improvements. Not that they couldn't be the same or better with internal improvements, but it's not a exciting situation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to, where do you want to go? The Brewers or the Cubs?
Let's talk about the Brewers.
Okay, so the Brewers, hate to say it, but they're like the class of this division, which is sad because the team what did they do in the offseason? They basically did nothing.
They agreed to a bunch of minor league contracts. They signed that guy has never played in the majors. Okay, never mind. They signed
for
Elvin Rodriguez to a 1-year contract. He has 34 days in the majors. And then they signed Tyler Alexander.
And then they also traded for Nestor Cortez and prospect Caleb Turbin from the Yankees.
And Grant Anderson. For Mason Molina. So relief pitcher move. But
yeah.
So
they're basically returning back their same starting lineup. They get Christian Yelich back from his back surgery, which could be big because even before that injury, he was playing very well. Jackson Churio showed up and after a brief adjustment period kind of turned into the super stud that we thought he was going to be. So
yeah,
that always helps. William Contreras, arguably the best catcher in the league right now.
So just William Contreras reminds me, in the American League West preview, one of the prompts that we didn't get to was that Cal Raleigh this year is going to become a legit superstar. And I was looking at it. Cal Raleigh and William Contreras, I think, are the two best catchers in baseball, period, right now. And it's kind of, it's one of those that I was looking, and William is by far the better hitter. Raleigh is by far the better defensive catcher, but they're both good at both. And it's really interesting to see, especially with Jackson Churio, Christian Yelich if he's somewhat healthy. That top three of this order, that's maybe the most dangerous like part of a Brewers lineup we've seen since Ryan Braun, Prince Fielder.
Yeah. And we liked their lineup quite a bit more last year with Willy Adames having a career season. They're missing him. That's the big loss that we have to mention here because now they've got to figure things out in the middle infield, whether it's Joey Ortiz moving over to shortstop or it's Bryce Terang, their platinum glove winner, becoming a shortstop. I don't know what they have decided to do there. One of the hallmarks of Brewers baseball is that they play fantastic defense. If you look at their outfield, they've got Sal Frelick, Garrett Mitchell, and then even bench guys like Blake Perkins, who's an absolute stud in the outfield. So no matter what defensive alignment they have on any given day, they're going to have fantastic defense with Terang and Joey Ortiz up the middle.
Well, and we mentioned earlier that we always seem to be down on the Brewers, and we always
underrate them because we forget about the defense, I think.
Well, it's not even just the defense, it's all of the fundamentals. They are the most fundamentally sound team in the NL Central by far. Yeah. And that is why they're able to consistently feel good teams, even with seemingly underwhelming hitters. Or in the case of last season, a seemingly underwhelming rotation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they're sound. You can't exploit their mistakes. And so they're going to win more often than they lose.
And last year it felt like they were somehow managing with nothing in their rotation.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting by with guys like Tobias Myers, who I'm still not convinced is a real person or a good pitcher.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not a real name.
Yeah, but and Tobias Myers was a guy that was just like in the minor leagues forever. Like I think he was a high school draft pick. He's not old now, but he literally debuted in the Baltimore system in 2016, and he didn't make his major league debut until 2024. So it took him a long time. Now he's here, and they're going to be counting on him. I like the addition of Nestor Cortez, and then back end guys like Savali and Ashby. It's like I should stop doubting them. They're gonna get the most they can out of these pitchers.
Well, and Ashby for a while we thought was potentially going to be incredible.
That's true. Yeah, he may just not have panned out yet.
Yeah. And so he's not even 27 yet. So like, I'm very much not going to root against Aaron. Yeah, I'm not going to give up on Aaron Ashby. Savali, yeah, you know what you're going to get. And he's not bad by any means. He's number 4, number 5 starter. That's what he is.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly where they've got him. So it kind of makes sense. Now, I was going to say the big thing here for them, though, is Devin Williams is gone now.
Yep.
So you trade him, and it seems like they've always got guys in the bullpen that are just going to come out of nowhere and be good. But who's that guy this year?
I think it's Trevor McGill, the guy that was doing it in Williams' absence last year when Williams was injured. Trevor McGill just shows up, and he's awesome. And it's just something that
Joel Payamps was quite good last year too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was decent. He was fun.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, right. I forgot DL Hall was with them now.
Yep. Yeah,
so he's
another guy.
Oh, that's recent. That's February 25.
Yep, that's a fresh one. All the pitcher injury news are coming in as the players report to spring training.
But yeah, with Woodruff on the IL, and he should be back sometime this year, right?
Yeah, so
Woodruff surgery in 23.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about Woodruff because he's really important to this team because we all know that when Brandon Woodruff is pitching, he's a top tier, like one of the best pitchers in the game by far.
Yeah.
And he had this shoulder surgery in 2023, and he ended up signing back with the Brewers in his injured year. That surgery is not it's not as straightforward as coming back from like a Tommy John surgery, which is not easy on its own, but the shoulder things scare you even more, and they're very difficult to return to your full form. But if they can get Brandon Woodruff even, say 80% of what he used to be, he immediately becomes probably their second best pitcher after Freddie Peralta. And that I think would elevate the Brewers to being really, really good in this division, because last year they were good. They were a 93 win team, and we still haven't seen true breakouts from their younger players, and they're still relying on a lot of other young players in the lineup, and we may now be getting to the point where they do actually break out.
Yeah. This is I think this could be a potentially scary team for come postseason time. Because I think there's no way that they don't have at least two of these young guys truly break out. Like, their entire back half of their order is just young, unproven guys that are getting a lot of leash. Like, one of them's gonna pop.
I was gonna say, yeah, they all basically were able to play last year, so now
I think Garrett Mitchell was hurt the beginning of last year, but towards the end he came up and he started playing well, and so you got him, you got Frelick, you got Terang, you got Joey Ortiz, Oliver Dunn, like, and then who's on their bench? Anyone? Caleb Durbin and Tyler Black, like a lot of young guys, and they've held their own so far.
I would say so, yeah.
So. And then they still got Rhys Hoskins, and we've kind of just completely glossed over him.
Yeah, he's another guy that he came back last year and he was okay, but maybe a year further removed from the injury, he's more like the old Rhys Hoskins, and he's a big power presence for the Brewers. So I guess overall, they're kind of returning the same team minus Williams, but adding back in like Woodruff and then the developments of some of these younger players. I think there's no reason they shouldn't be near the top of this division.
Jacob Mizorowski.
Yeah. If he can ever find some command, maybe he'll be in the rotation at some point.
I think he's going to do it.
Okay.
Opening day rotation, take over from Savali.
Oh, yeah. There's another guy, Jefferson Carroll, right? He's a top catching prospect, and he missed the entire year last year, I think, with injury. So I don't know. I think he's close.
Yeah, and he's already on the 40-man too. So it's like, to bring him up is not even, it's just who's off the active. It doesn't require another move other than just moving someone off the active roster. Like, he'll be up, he'll play this year. We'll see what they could get out of him. And so between him and William, if Yelly can be healthy enough to play in the outfield, I think you're in a good spot. So
absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Let's take this conversation over to the Cubs now. And the Cubs are the team that actually,
are we gonna end with the crappy two?
I feel like that's what we always do.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, so the Cubs, they actually made moves this offseason, and they made quite a few moves, and it's pretty clear that they've improved this ball club all around. And the big move that we have to talk about first is Kyle Tucker. They traded for Kyle Tucker, which is, it feels like a long time ago. It was about 2 months ago now that it actually happened. But this is by far the most impactful trade that any team made this offseason. Not very often is a top 10 player in the league get traded. He's going into his contract year, so makes sense. It sort of makes sense why the Astros would do this and why the Cubs were kind of the perfect team to make the deal, because they're sort of loaded in their farm system. They had the prospects and the other supplementary players to make this deal happen. And now they've got sort of that big bat in their lineup that they've been missing for a couple of years. That the Cubs they've had good teams the last 2 years, but they haven't had that last piece to push them over the hump and get them back to the playoffs. Kind of they're getting stuck in the mid 80s win range. And I think a Kyle Tucker move, without discussing any of the other moves they made in the offseason, it just kind of pushes them more into like the high 80s range.
Yeah. And then they also bolstered the bullpen quite a bit, bringing in Ryan Presley, Ryan Brazier, trading for Eli Morgan, trading for Matt Festa. Like, and then also Cody Poteet from the Yankees, who they got for Bellinger. Depending on where he ends up slotting in, I think he's probably more of a bullpen guy than a starter. Yeah. But yeah, they've a lot of guys with some fairly decent track records. I mean, none of those guys, or like all of those guys, have at least 2 years in the majors. And so I think this bullpen is going to be pretty improved, and it wasn't even a bad bullpen necessarily.
Yeah, it was really interesting the way the bullpen played out, because it was really horrible in the beginning of the season. And then Hector Neris was really bad, and it cost him a lot of games early season. But then it sort of rounded into form with the emergence of Porter Hodge. Tyson Miller became a back of the relief corps guy.
Keegan Thompson.
Yeah. So I think they made a huge improvement by bringing in the Ryans, Ryan Presley, Ryan Brazier. Ryan Brazier is really interesting because he had a fantastic 2023 with the Dodgers. He was pretty good in 2024. He literally only was available because the Dodgers ran out of spaces on their 26-man roster. Like they did not have a spot for him. He had to go.
Yeah. You guys did a pretty good job this offseason. I'm pretty impressed with how this went. Bringing in Matt Boyd as well and Colin Ray. Like, you're just kind of solidifying up some of the back ends of the bullpen, of the rotation. And it's everybody there you trust to go in the game and just handle it. And maybe they're not lockdown guys by any means, but it kind of gives you every opportunity to just say, okay, the hitting, this is where we're focused now. Let's bring in Kyle Tucker. Let's start driving in these runs from Happ being on base. Get Seiya some guys in front of him. Now we're going to have Matt Shaw come up. See if him, PCA, if they can start to show more with the bat. You've got your double play infield and Dansby and Nico that you love. This just feels like a lineup that nobody can be upset. Like, you're happy with this. You look at it on paper and you're like, I feel good about this. This can be a really, really good team.
Yep. I agree. I think the offense is looking very good. With just adding Tucker in there helps so much, because most of the other players are kind of returning. Obviously Matt Shaw's an addition, but you see more upside in like the bottom of a lineup compared to a team that we were recently talking about, like the Mariners, where it's like, okay, these bottom of the lineup guys, there's not much to see here. You kind of know what you're going to get, and it's not exciting.
Yeah.
But when you look at the bottom of the Cubs lineup, you look at Pete Crow Armstrong, who was
at some point PCA is going to be a leadoff hitter at some point.
Yeah, he could be. And even if he's not, you've got Gold Glove defense, you've got great base running, and that's if he like kind of busts out. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Then you got Miguel Amaya, who figured out some stuff in the second half last year, was really starting to hit. He seems primed to really take over the starting job this year.
And he doesn't even need to be great hitting.
No, he doesn't.
He's in a great position right now, where as long as he is just manning behind the plate and working with the pitchers well, he's got that spot in the lineup. don't try and push yourself too hard and make things happen that just aren't happening. I think he can relax a little bit, and if he starts or if he produces, fantastic. If he doesn't, that's fine too.
Yep.
So.
And one other big comment on the Cubs is that they've got a very, very deep organization right now. And what I mean by that is that they don't just go the 5 starters deep in their rotation. They've got like starters 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They've got like they brought in Colin Ray, but then in minor leagues, um, Cade Horton is getting close to being a big leaguer. They've got Ben Brown, who's likely going to be given another shot to start at some point. Other guys like Jordan Wicks. I mean, no other team in this division has anywhere near the depth that the Cubs do. And it also extends into the lineup. There's prospects like Moises Ballesteros, Owen Casey, Kevin Alcantara. Those guys are all going to contribute to the major league team this year because they're basically ready now. It's just a matter of when. It's not like that they will do it. It's they will do it. We just don't know when.
Yeah. Yeah, this is I think you're talking me into maybe picking the Cubs to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, everybody seems to think right now that the Cubs are the top dog. I mean, projections all have picked the Cubs, and it's kind of hard to argue it, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they fall a little bit short of
Yeah.
those projections.
I mean, the biggest thing with the Cubs compared to the Brewers right now is the fact that the Cubs have a lot more guys who have been there, done it, proven what their floor is, and you only have 2 or 3 young guys that you're relying on, whereas the Brewers have 5 young guys, 6 young guys that they're relying on that they're good, but they don't have a long-term track record, and so their floor, you don't know exactly where it's at. So I feel like projections are maybe looking at that. And it's like, yeah, the Cubs have the higher floor. The Brewers maybe have the higher ceiling.
I kind of disagree with that too.
I was going to say, but is that really the case? I don't think it is.
I don't think so. When you factor in like a Matt Shaw, who I'm just looking at his projection here on Fangraphs. He's projected for a 725 OPS and a 106 WRC plus. And projections typically are not high on guys that have never debuted. They're always going to sort of regress them back down and not give them a great projection. They're giving Matt Shaw an above average projection at the major league level. It clearly shows that he's got some very interesting skills and tools that are going to make him a very, very good big leaguer at some point.
Yeah, and he's only 2 years removed from being drafted too.
Correct. Yeah, he's playing in the Big Ten in 2023. The last thing on the Cubs is that we got to talk about the business side of the Cubs right now, because they were in on this pursuit of Alex Bregman, and Jed Hoyer talked after Bregman signed with the Red Sox, and he talked in a very different way than I had ever heard him talk before about the payroll and just the situation that the Cubs are in. He was very open about it, which is not something I've ever seen him do before, because he's usually very close to the chest. He won't give a lot of details. He'll basically say, we get the payroll and we stick to the payroll, and that's pretty much all he ever says. But this time, he described how they basically pitched the Ricketts on making a one-time increase of payroll to go after Alex Bregman. And even with that, they offered the 4th best deal that he was actually offered. And it kind of tells you, like, hey, the Cubs are sitting about 30 million below the first luxury tax threshold. And their budget is clearly much lower than that first threshold, which is so frustrating as a fan because it's like this team is top 5 in revenue, top 5 in franchise value, yet they spend like a mid-tier team. They're 14th in payroll this year, which is
they're
disappointing.
literally just trying to pay enough to be able to win this division.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing the absolute bare minimum. They're not competing with the Philadelphias, the New Yorks, and the LAs right now, even though they very much should be. And they've built a really good baseball team despite that. But it could be so much more if they actually supported it the way that the other clubs do.
I do think it's a little interesting that he basically, like, I mean, we all know that it's Ricketts that's saying, no, don't spend more. It's definitely not Jed. Jed wants to win.
Yeah.
That's what he wants to do. But I do find it interesting that he like publicly stated that. He's like, yeah, I went and asked if we could increase payroll because I want to win.
Yeah, and then I can tell you exactly why. It's because this is the last year of Jed Hoyer's contract. So if the Cubs fall short and he gets dismissed or whatever, he could say, this is why I was hamstrung. I told you why this happened. It wasn't his choice for things to go this way. And I wouldn't blame him if he just left, you know. Maybe he could get a better situation.
Go work with Heim.
That would be really something.
That would be hysterical. I won't.
It really would. Yeah. Yeah, you can see the frustration, and despite all that, I still think the Cubs are the team to beat in this division because it's a really, really well assembled club with depth. They've got like top end talent, and just with the rest of the division essentially taking a step back, it makes them the clear favorite to win.
Yeah. I hate that it's when the rest of the division takes a step back, they're the favorites. It's like it should be because you improved drastically.
And they did. They did improve, so you got to give them credit for that.
They do, but I just hate that we can still say that other part.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have mattered if they tried or not. They still would have been the favorite.
Yeah. It's terrible. Yeah.
Why is this our favorite division?
I don't know, man. I just love those Reds Cubs games at 11:35 a.m. on Sundays.
Yeah. Let's just talk about the crap teams now.
All right. So I find the Reds to be kind of bad, but also a highly interesting team.
Yeah, I was going to say they're a really intriguing bad team.
Yeah. And their big move actually was not a player transaction. Their big move was bringing Terry Francona out of retirement, and some of the information about how they actually Nick Kroll and whatever his guy that he works with, they went out to Terry Francona's house. They had never met the guy, and they just kind of wanted to do like a meet and greet type of thing as they were looking for a new manager. Within 45 minutes of their conversation, they were ready to hire Terry Francona. And Terry Francona is like a Hall of Fame, like he's going to be a Hall of Fame manager. The guy's insanely good. He's had success every single place that he's been. One of the greatest managers of all time. He just has a amazing ability to get the best out of the players, but he's also tactical, and he knows how to run a bullpen better than just about anybody. He's an awesome manager, and I think the fact that he came out of retirement for this specific team gives me more confidence, because why would Terry Francona come out of retirement to like manage some bad team? He's like at the end of his career. He doesn't have that many years left. He's not going to go manage the Marlins, for example.
So there's a few names on this team that I think are definitely the reason he came back. There are a few other names that are why I'm leery that this team can do anything. The reason he came back, number one, first and foremost, Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah.
Straight up, period. I think Ellie reminds him of J-Ram with more to him. Like he loved J-Ram. J-Ram is a great player. And I think just some of the skills that Ellie has, especially being there on the left side of the infield, I think that just in your head, you're like, he's going to be the J-Ram of this team. Who's going to be the Lindor? Matt McLean. Mm-hmm.
All right.
And you start thinking about it like, oh, I had some really good teams with these guys. These guys remind me a lot of that. Spencer Steer. Love Spencer Steer. TJ Friedel. Actually kind of decent. Not terrible. Jake Fraley. Same way, but that's where you start getting like your...
Yeah.
Jamer's...
I think the outfield, yeah.
Decent. Jamer's good. But then Gavin Lux, Austin Hayes... Like, you start losing the excitement pretty quick. CES, okay, he might be really good. He's just only going to play first base or DH.
Apparently, he showed up really slim to camp, and they were talking about playing him at third. So that brings me to the point that I was going to make. Right now, I see some similarities between the Cardinals and the Reds in terms of like we don't really know how the position group's going to shake out because they have a lot of guys for not a lot of spots.
Yeah.
The guys that are locked in, you've got Ellie's your shortstop.
McLean.
You got Tyler Stevenson. No, you don't even know about McLean because you don't know if he's the second baseman or if he's going to move to the outfield.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. So you got Stevenson at catcher and you've got Ellie at shortstop. The rest of it is totally up for grabs.
I mean, Austin Hayes is going to be a left fielder when he's in the game, and I think they signed Austin Hayes to be an everyday guy.
Yeah, he might be. So yeah, okay, we can pencil in Austin Hayes, but then what's going to happen with Gavin Lux? Is he a second baseman? Is he an outfielder? The last time he tried to play the outfield, it did not go well.
The last time he tried to play second, it didn't go well.
Yeah, exactly. Is Candelario a first baseman or a third baseman? Can CES stay healthy and play on the field?
Is Spencer Steer a left fielder or is he your first baseman?
Yeah, exactly.
Matt McLean, center, left, right, second, short. Well, not short, but yeah.
This is complex. This is not a algebra problem.
Then you got Santiago Espinal, who is... I mean, I understand Santiago Espinal is a bench guy, but when he's in the game, it's like, okay, well, where's he going? Is he second base? Is he in the outfield? Like, he's not the guy you're trying to pencil in the lineup. Yeah. But when you need him, like, where does he go?
So Francona's got his work cut out for him. This is not like a mostly finished puzzle. It's like you're just starting out. But I think that Francona is going to get to that optimized alignment for this club. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what it's going to look like. There's so many open spots, but I have confidence that he's actually going to get there because that's the thing that I think held the Reds back last year because none of these guys could get in everyday roles. They were just like hurt. They were moving around. Nobody was locked into positions and they couldn't quite develop the way that people thought they could, because if everything works out, the Reds should have a really good offense, right? Because CES will hit, McLean will be healthy, and Ellie will take the next step, and this could be a really good lineup, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm even looking at the rotation right now, and the upside for this rotation is massive.
Yeah.
Like, and that's probably another big draw for Tito. Because, like, Hunter Green, massive upside. Pretty high floor as well. The home run bug is going to bite him. It's a home run park. You're not really going to avoid that. So,
he did last year. That was a funny thing. Yeah.
Who'd Tito bring in as the pitching coach?
I don't know.
I would be curious because with Hunter Green, Brady Singer, who we've talked about a ton. Andrew Abbott is a very high upside guy. He showed in his rookie season that he could be very good. Nick Lodolo, same as Hunter Green, just from the left side. Like, home run bug is gonna bite, and it's gonna bite hard, and it has in his career. But these are all guys who could be shut down. Like, any one of these guys could turn into what Luis Castillo was for the Reds. And none of them have necessarily solidified themselves into that role. Hunter Green is the closest by far. But I think that this is going to be the year where you see one of these four take that role.
Yeah, I think so. And even a guy like Lodolo, every time Lodolo pitches, it's really good production. He's had a big problem staying healthy. And last year, he pitched his career high in innings, but he still was on the injured list 4 separate times with 4 separate injuries. So maybe this is the year, though, that he can step up and be like a 150 inning guy and actually pitch the whole season. That'd be awesome for this team. What else on the Reds? They do not have a very good bullpen, I don't think.
No, they brought in Taylor Rogers.
They did, yeah.
Scott Barlow,
yeah.
That will probably help, but the rest of it's just very underwhelming. I couldn't even tell you who the best guy in their bullpen is.
Yeah,
it's probably Taylor Rogers.
Probably, yeah.
But other than that, Alexis Diaz, maybe? Graham Ashcraft? Yeah. I don't know.
He's okay.
Ashcraft is kind of more of a starter.
Yeah, I think he might be pretty good as a reliever, though. Throws really hard. Yeah, so what's your best case scenario here for the Reds? Can they compete in this division, or are they just like more bottom of the division team?
In this division, yeah, they could compete. That's everyone can. I mean, we talked about how much parity there was in the division last year. I mean, like, no team is incredible by any means. The odds of them being in the top 2 in the division, slim to none. I do think this team will take a step forward. I think David Bell kind of was holding this team back a little bit. He was not a great manager. He also didn't have the best lineup to work with. So,
yeah.
But I don't know. I'm on the fence. I think that this will be an improved Reds team. I don't think they're going to be. They're not going to be last in the division.
I see like 500, roughly.
Yeah, which kind of about the same as last year.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well,
I don't know.
One more thing on Ellie, though. So Terry Francona was talking about how he thinks that Ellie can be like the best player in the game. And I mean, makes sense. He's going to hype this guy up. But he mentioned some very specific parts of his game. Like, he led the league in outs on the bases. He led the league in errors for a shortstop. And he also led the league in strikeouts. He struck out like over 200 times last year. So those are all areas of improvement. And still, Ellie had a 3-4 WAR season. Like, he was a star. He was fantastic. Yet he still has so much room for growth. And a lot of that is like
5 WAR, 4.9.
Yeah. Okay, so he's like a 5 WAR guy, and that's with all his flaws. So if he can cut down on at 23, if he can cut down on some of the unforced error type stuff, like making outs on the base paths, that's just like him being overly aggressive. If he tones that back down about 5%, he can be that best player in the league. It's actually possible.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think that's the flaw of his game that's the least. Oh no, sorry. He was a 6.4 WAR guy. I was looking at his projections.
The projection. Yeah.
My bad. No, he was. But Ellie, 67 stolen bases. Like, he's gonna get thrown out on the base paths. His 16 caught stealings.
It wasn't just the stolen base caught stealings, like out running an extra base.
But like, my point being, like, I don't know that I necessarily mind with him.
Okay, fair. That's very fair. You don't want to tone down a player's aggressiveness when they're that fast.
Yeah, because like, it's all a game of numbers. Like, what are the odds he's gonna get that base? Probably over 50%. So it's gonna pay off more to just let him go.
But it's like, he can learn probably some things about, like, picking his spots. When's the right time to take the extra base? When's the right time to just, hold up with the double?
Yeah, like, okay, that's fair.
But yeah, it's minor stuff. I don't think he's major changes away from being the best player in the league. He can clean up the throwing or whatever from shortstop, and that's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, and with the arm strength that he has, he could probably just take an extra beat.
Yeah.
And actually get a good throw in there and still get the guy out. So
I'm not a Reds fan, but I'm an Ellie fan, and I really want to see this guy, like, maximize, because it's going to be so fun. Okay. We got one more team, Pirates.
We have to.
Yeah, okay. Let's start with the good stuff, though. The Pirates got Paul Skenes.
I love their rotation.
It's awesome, yeah.
I don't even necessarily need to single out Paul Skenes. We all know, but I don't need to single him out because I love the whole rotation. Yeah. I love Paul Skenes. I love Jared Jones. Johan Oviedo is a solid starter.
I forgot he was coming back. Yeah.
Mitch Keller is whenever, like, now that Skenes is the guy, Keller's just coming in there to throw. And he's just trying to be the best that he can. He's no longer trying to be the face of the team, the ace. He doesn't have that pressure anymore.
Yeah, no. For years, it felt like, Mitch Keller's the only guy in this rotation that has any semblance of any bit of talent. And he wasn't really like an ace or anything. He was just like a mid-rotation guy, and now he can continue to be that mid-rotation guy, highly valuable, because he's going to go out there and throw 190 innings, but he doesn't have to be the best starter on the team because they've got Paul Skenes, they've got Jared Jones, they've got prospects coming that are, like, really, really high upside.
I think Bubba Chandler might be fighting for an opening day rotation spot, isn't he?
He very well could be, yeah. I mean, he's obviously better than Bailey Falter. It's just how fast do they want to push him? I would say that he'll be up by May.
He had 7 starts in AAA.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't see a reason to keep him down.
Yeah, the only reason if they want to, like, slow play the innings just a little bit, but he's a guy that had basically a full minor league season. He's actually built up to be a major league starter.
Yeah. And then you've got Thomas Harrington as well, who's in a pretty similar position. Was actually their first round pick in 2022. So as far as draft stock is concerned, I think the expectation for him was higher than Chandler. And he's also right there. Pick? Chandler was a 3rd round pick.
Oh, okay. But the only reason is because he was like a two sport athlete and all that stuff. So, anyways, they've clearly figured some stuff out on the pitching side. I mean, getting the number 1 pick, getting Paul Skenes obviously helps, but
yeah,
the way they've developed Jared Jones, Bubba Chandler, Harrington, I really like what they're doing, and that has not typically been the case for the Pirates teams as we've grown up. They've usually had some of the worst pitching in the league, and now it's kind of flipped around. Now we got to talk about the bad though, and that's the lineup.
Oh yeah.
Yikes!
Are you sure?
It is. I really don't want to talk about this club,
can we just end the podcast here? We're over an hour.
Just cut it off right here.
Pirates suck. Bye.
Pirates suck. Yeah. So, how is this team going to score any runs to support this great starting staff?
So, the team is going to be solid defensively. Can we start there?
All right. Tell me about it.
So, Brian Hayes, best defensive third baseman in the game, gets no love for it. You got Brian Reynolds, who is just all around great player.
Yep.
Tommy Pham is going to track down balls in left field. You're not really going to have a problem defensively there. O'Neal Cruz has one hell of an arm.
Yeah.
He'll be getting outfield assists galore. Nick Gonzalez plays second base. So you got a guy standing there.
Yeah. And then you got IKF. He's also a good defender. Yeah.
And Joey Bart behind the plate, not a bad defensive catcher at all. It was the bat was the reason that he never broke out. And then last year he played fairly solid for them. So you've got defensively a solid club.
Pause there.
Yeah. What else do I want to say?
So, what were their moves on offense this offseason? They brought in Pham and they re-signed Andrew McCutchen. But other than that, they're kind of banking on some of these younger guys taking the next step. But I'm just not seeing it. I just
Adam Frazier for a bench guy, and where's the trades?
They traded for Spencer Horwitz. That was kind of their big move. And unfortunately, Spencer Horwitz is going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks with a wrist surgery.
Oh, they also brought in Emmanuel Valdez.
Okay. Yeah. I think that it's O'Neal Cruz and a bunch of guys. Brian Reynolds, he is what he is. He's as consistent a player, but he's very boring in the sense that there's very little projection there. He's not going to hit 35 homers or something. He's not going to but he's probably going to give you 2 to 3 WAR, and that's all you can get. You want him in your lineup, but you need 3 or 4 more Brian Reynolds type players to feel better about the lineup. They're not close, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm looking at this and there's not much here. Why? This is a serious question. I know you're gonna laugh at it because we love this dude. Why did they not bring back Rowdy? Legitimately.
I don't know.
He would be a huge boon for this club offensively. He's not that great, but that's how bad this offense is.
Well, does Rowdy even have a team?
I don't think so. But all these guys that are in their lineup, for the most part, were fairly decent prospects not so long ago. Nick Gonzalez was a good prospect. Andy Rodriguez is a good prospect. Brian Hayes was a great prospect. Joey Bart was a great prospect. But there's a point where was a great prospect should probably tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Because we don't talk about good players based on how they were as a prospect.
Yes, that's very true. And how many failed prospects have we seen the Pirates try out and kind of roll past?
Almost all of them.
Years. Pretty much all of them. Andrew McCutchen's the success story.
I was going to say McCutchen was the last guy other than, Brian Reynolds wasn't really a prospect.
Brian Reynolds also wasn't their prospect. He's the guy that they traded for when they traded Andrew McCutchen to the Giants.
Right. I forgot about that. But yeah, it's Adam Frazier was their other guy, but then he's been all over the league and he's never been all that great since he left the Pirates, and he was only like fairly solid with the Pirates.
Year, yeah.
It was kind of him and Colton Wong had very, very similar careers.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it's frustrating because the Pirates would have been the team that could have benefited the most from any position player free agent signing. Like even beyond the FAM level of like 1 year, $4 million deal. I'm talking about like sign like a Michael Conforto or sign a bigger free agent, which they clearly do not have the budget to do. But it's frustrating because it's a team that has a good base of starting pitching. By the end of the year, let's say Bubba Chandler and Thomas Harrington are in the rotation. You could see a scenario where the Pirates have literally a top 5 rotation in the league, and they have one of the worst 5 offenses in the league. No question about it.
It's very, very, very reminiscent of the Mariners.
But the Mariners at least have more on offense. This is like way worse.
That's why I said reminiscent and not the exact same. Because you have O'Neal Cruz, who is not Julio, but as far as the Pirates are concerned, he's kind of their Julio.
Yeah.
You have Brian Reynolds, who's kind of their Rosarena.
Right, yeah.
But then they don't have a big dumper.
They don't have a big dumper. They don't have a J.P. Crawford. They don't have even platoon guys.
They do have a J.P. Crawford. His name is Ke'Bryan Hayes.
I guess, yeah.
Because neither one of them are all that great at hitting.
Yeah, defensive guys.
Yeah. So, but this is... Their back-end guys are so much worse than the Mariners' back-end guys.
Way worse.
Like, the guys that I'm comparing to the Mariners' good players are worse than the Mariners' good players, period. Like, the Mariners have the leg up there. They have the leg up in the down the roster guys. Like, that's why the Pirates are bad. Like, this isn't a hard division to compete in. It's really not.
No.
So the fact that they're consistently the bottom is incredible.
Yeah. And speaking of Rowdy, I Googled him and I was reminded that the Pirates cut him mid-season when he was 4 plate appearances short of his $250,000 bonus.
Yep.
So that kind of is the Pirates organization in a nutshell. They haven't signed a multi-year free agent since 2016. So this is what you get. Like, it's just unfortunate. They're going to waste Skenes and Jones and Bubba Chandler.
Yeah.
And then they're going to get traded down the line as they get closer to free agency.
To the Rays.
Because
that's how it always worked.
For 19 prospects that will not pan out.
And Chris Archer.
Yeah. Who also didn't pan out.
Are we surprised?
No.
I didn't think so.
Okay, so unfortunately we had to end there on a not so fun note with the Pirates discussion, but overall, let's make some predictions for this division.
God, I'm torn between have I let you talk me into the Cubs or am I gonna finally pick the Brewers to win it? I think I gotta go Brewers just this once. I can't okay. It's so many years in a row I've refused to.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna pick them to win it, and then they're gonna bomb.
Tank. Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pick the Brewers to win it. I'm going to pick the Cubs to only be 2 games back.
Okay.
First wild card. 2 games back of the Brew Crew. Then the Cardinals and the Reds are going to be fighting for third. I think both teams have reason for hope. I think both teams could very much see one of the roughest seasons that they've had in a while. Mostly the Cardinals there, not so much the Reds. I think the Reds will probably be same as last year or better. But I'm gonna take the Reds in third, the Cardinals in fourth, and the Pirates are gonna round it out at the bottom.
Okay. All right. Well, I think I'm going to pick the Cubs, though I'm not like super confident in the pick. I can definitely see the Brewers. I could even see the Cardinals, honestly, winning this division.
Yeah, I mean, that is very much something the Cardinals would do.
Yeah.
And there's enough talent there they could do it. Like,
but usually, you know, we were talking about the Cubs being the team that the only team that like did anything really to improve over the offseason. Usually that's the Cardinals' role, where they do just enough to get themselves to be the best team in the division. They do no more than the absolute minimum. I think the Cubs have done that, but they've done maybe a little bit more. Just the fact that they added a top end guy like Tucker, that's going to propel them to this division
and solidified a rotation that with Imanaga and Justin Steele has a very good front end.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got depth too and prospects coming. I see their prospect impact being greater than any other team other than maybe the Pirates with the pitchers or whatever, but there's just more there for the Cubs. And the Brewers, once again, on paper, it's hard to pick them because they don't feel super exciting. But as you mentioned, they've got the fundamentals that always raise their floor and always makes them
they
competitive.
proved last year that Craig Counsell was not the sole reason that they were always good. So exactly. I'm now okay. I'm buying in.
Yep. So I'm gonna go Cubs, Brewers, Reds, Cardinals, but close, kind of like you're saying, because the Cardinals just feel like they're in a bad spot just overall.
Yeah. So the Cardinals, in my mental health, are in about the same spot. Unrelated, like it's it could in one day it could be the worst and the best. Like it's very much Schrodinger's cat of baseball teams. Like, put this lineup in a box. Is it good or is it bad? You don't know until you open the box.
You don't know. Yeah.
And we're gonna open the box here in a month, and then we'll see what happens.
We will, yeah. Oh. And the Pirates' offense is just gonna hamper them from.
That's the box that you bury and put a little rock on that says "Rip Fluffy."
Yeah. That's the one.
That box you don't even have to open to find out if it's alive. You know it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, that was morbid.
That was morbid.
Sorry.
So that was probably the longest preview on the NL Central that you can find anywhere. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you next time.
If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.